Good morning, Jenny. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, Susan. Thanks for asking.
Excellent. So to the folks that don't know, you and I know have known each other for, oh gosh, I want to say almost 20 years now, from a few evolutions and whatnot in careers. And, I know we've talked a lot about what you're doing currently and how some of the FinTech can certainly help coaches and consultants and small businesses. But why don't we start by maybe you doing a bit of an introduction about yourself and your business?
Sure, not a problem. Thanks for having me, Susan. So my name's Jennie Moore. I am the founder of More Details. Primarily what we are is a business coach. So we help organizations understand their bookkeeping story. And with that, we involve different types of applications in the FinTech industry to make it simple for them.
Nice. Streamlining processes.
You got it. I'm always about that. Streamlining, and then streamline again.
Especially as technology evolves.
Exactly, right? It's ever changing and for a good reason. It's always solving different pain points and also bringing different opportunities for business owners to get in tune with their financial data, which has always been sort of a bit of a discord in a traditional bookkeeping environment.
And why has it been a discord?
I would say it's because of the transfer of data. So what we do is we embrace FinTech. So maybe we should talk about, the FinTech and what that means too, right? So FinTech is a way of using technology in the financial industry. So FinTech, two words kind of smashed there together to sound really cute with a hashtag. And just like there's apps on your phone, whether you're using Samsung or iPhone, you also have apps for your accounting system as well now. And that's really what FinTech is and how we're able to assist people in understanding that data. So a traditional workflow didn't have that kind of connectivity. Data was very manual. You printed it out. You put it in an envelope. You might have couriered it to your bookkeeper, your accountant. They looked at it. They, basically babysat it for a couple of months, and then they sent it back to you. So that transfer of data was very manual, very archaic, and very time consuming, which meant that the person who was looking for the financial statements sometimes didn't get them for, maybe a couple of months, depending on how complex that workflow was. We solved that.
And certainly if you don't, as a business owner, have the financial information up to date and at your fingertips, how are you going to know? I mean, a couple of months is a long.
Exactly. When we started embracing FinTech, we were a traditional firm because that's all we had. I mean, it was desktop based. It was very paper based, things like that. One of the things we noticed right away was that feedback to our clients and then also involving them in the bookkeeping. So before it was like, the paper is mine. I'm not going to share it with you. I'm not going to share the data file with you, like this kind of thing going on. And now with FinTech, we're able to involve the clients. Oh yeah, we're going to get very theatrical here. So now with FinTech, we're able to involve the clients in the bookkeeping process so they can do something as part of it. And with that, exactly, if you don't have real-time data or at least current data, you may not be, as a business owner, able to make good decisions like, should you buy that next fixed asset or should you lease it? Should you hire that employee or should you not? These are things that are up in the air if you don't have good data in front of you to make those informed decisions.
That's right. That's right. And so how are your customers able then to assist in that workflow process? I've certainly seen, I know you've got some YouTube videos out there and I know a lot of ones in terms of apps that you particularly recommend. Can you talk a little bit about what you found to be the best in terms of your business practices with your clients?
Yeah, so what we found is when we came out of that traditional workflow, we realized that every client is different. Go figure.
Ooh.
What a shocker. So really, when it comes to workflows, we sort of customize that for each client. So what that kind of looks like, it really comes down to us listening to their pain points and then finding the solution for it, then finding the app for it, as opposed to their bookkeeping or their coaching being part of a cookie cutter standpoint, if you will. Like, you have to fit into this mold. I don't fit very well into certain molds. I'm certain that, you know, a lot of businesses have their uniquenesses as well. Maybe not as type A as mine, but anywho, you know, so how does that look like then? So as we listen to each client and their pain points, really apps, FinTech, fill gaps. So that's our key point. Apps fill the gaps. So we look at that pain point, it's a gap, and then we're going to go and find something that solves that for them. Now we'll look at our traditional app stack, if you will. Think of it like a menu, where it's like, okay, these are the main apps that we would typically integrate with for your file, but maybe the client is so different that these apps aren't going to work. So we need to go and research something else. But the second part of your question is, how does it look like from the client's point of view and being involved? Really, it's up to your imagination. If you can think it, chances are you can do it. Not only with the accounting system itself, the ecosystem that we build, but also in our relationship as well. So before it was, okay, you handed off the paperwork, it mysteriously got done, and then it came back to you. Now clients can be involved in, maybe they want to run their own payroll. Why not? If you can set up a process really simplified, you know, clients can run their own payroll. Maybe they're doing their own invoicing. We're both working in real time in one platform. Think of it like it's a portal is really what it is. It's a web portal, and we're working in tune together in the same portal. We're not transferring data back and forth on a memory stick or a file.
So the client uploads the data, or the data is done electronically, and both you and the client have access. So kind of like for my neophyte type of mind, maybe like a Google Doc type of thing, where it's
you got it.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And there's different types of platforms that have different types of functionality depending on what you need. So let's take the biggest pain point, which is usually paper, right? Like, I got a really funny YouTube video where I'm just throwing paper like a temper tantrum. It's really hilarious. If you're having an awful day, just look at that. It's hilarious. But that's really the mayhem clients are dealt with, is just this paper. Like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. So you can use apps like HubDoc, Receipt Bank, there's auto entry too, where you can capture documents using a smartphone. Here's another guy here. These are some scanners. This is a really tiny scanner. There's some larger scanners too, where clients will just capture a picture, and then our team looks at it and processes the data. Now, for some clients, they might want to do all that themselves. That's fine. It's a little more complex, depending on their systems. They can also run that system as well. And that way, their data is always kept electronically for a couple of good reasons. One is it's usually stored in the source program, so whether you're using QuickBooks or something else, but it's also saved in your document portal. So you're keeping digital receipts. Now, a lot of people get upset about digital receipts, but Susan, you've probably seen this too. You know, paper receipts only last so long. And if you have a flood, maybe you got some rodents hanging around. Not saying you got rodents hanging around. I mean, mine are kids. So
the dog ate my homework.
The dog ate my homework, the dog ate my paper. Thermal paper receipts will fade over 2 years. So by having an electronic image in the now, you're able to protect yourself about claiming those certain types of deductions for Canada Revenue Agency. So that's really kind of some of the processes we have for our clients.
So are there then apps that you find that are consistently among the ones that are chosen by your clients to work with and by yourself?
Yes, usually when our clients are using it, they're wanting a certain interface or an ease of use. So we need to be really cognitive about that, because they're the ones that are scanning the data. We're not going to take shipments of paper in. We really try and avoid that as much as possible. There's very few cases where we'll allow clients to send us paper, believe it or not. We totally ban it. It's quite a process we have. So it depends on what the client can relate to. So some clients like a certain interface. So we might choose maybe Receipt Bank for one or HubDoc for another. It depends on the type of technology they have, right? It depends on their abilities as well. Respectfully, we have some individuals that have some challenges. So using a smaller device isn't going to be feasible for them, or it won't be feasible for their organization. Their organization might be fairly large. might have several users. So we're going to put a high-end scanner in that will collect the data. So it really comes down to, what does the client need? What do they prefer to use? What relates to them? And then we go and look for options for them.
Nice, nice. And then so that's in the process of the data coming into you, the turnaround from you and your team being able to do what you need to be doing and getting the information back to the client. Is that as easy as, I at the end of the day as a business owner just want to hit that report and it prints out for me for whatever profit and loss statements or financial information?
You got it. So what we have is, for our workflows, depending on which clients take on our services. So obviously we have, we call them dragon clients. So yes, you did see this earlier. He's our little mascot. Our dragon clients are the ones that are big, audacious. They mirror me. and they have a certain caliber of service, but we also have startup packages as well for other individuals. So depending on how often we look at your data is how often you're able to see it in real time. So obviously dragon clients, we're looking at their data twice a week. Startup clients, we're looking at it once a month, and that's reflective of their costs, right? So, eventually startup clients come up to the dragon threshold. What clients can expect is, typically at the end of each month, we review their bank statements, and within 2 weeks, they have their finalized financial statements. So dragon clients can always look at their data and see where they're at within a week of being a bit of a sliding scale of data being reviewed. But at least every client by the 20th of each month receives a finalized financial statement. We call them management reports that have their income statement, their balance sheet, their statement of cash flows, or any other type of customized reports for them. So at least they're seeing the data 3 weeks after the month end, which is pretty cool based on some other older technologies that are out there.
And when you say older technologies, you're talking about some of the QuickBooks and Sage. I mean, some of these are much larger, for a really much larger, maybe more established organizations.
Yeah, so even though with QuickBooks, we run QuickBooks Online throughout our platform, some of the more time-consuming platforms are the desktop platforms. So those are the ones where they're not in a portal. It's a desktop platform that's on a computer or a PC. They're not Mac compliant. We're a completely Mac organization, so that's one of the reasons why we like the online version. But those platforms are still really good and really good for certain client sets, but they do cause sometimes a disruption in the timeliness of data coming back to clients.
And it would be, and that would go back to having a paper flow as opposed to being electronic as well.
Yeah, and there have been some advancements, to be honest with you, in certain apps integrating into desktop platforms, but it's still a bit of a making an apple into an orange kind of thing, right? You're forcing a workflow to work as opposed to adopting something that is innovative and part of the ecosystem as it's supposed to be. So there are sort of hacks, if you will.
Can we circle back for a second to the dragon? It's something that I really found fascinating when we
My little dragon.
Yes, your little dragon. we talked almost a year ago when we bumped into each other, and it's not really a fintech conversation, but it is certainly something that every entrepreneur and every business owner really needs to be able to work on. And so dragon is an acronym, right, for your ideal clients.
Exactly. It's important for everybody to know who their ideal client is, because if you're someone to everyone, you're going to get burnt out. You're likely not going to make much money, and you're not going to be very happy. And you're just going to probably fold and start a full-time job somewhere else. That's just me being very audacious. So we found the dragon as part of a bad situation I had. When I was first starting out, is I took on every client because every client was a good client. And that is typically how business owners feel. Startups and entrepreneurs feel that way in the very beginning. It's like, every client's a good client. We need to take every client on. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm just saying yes to everyone. Yeah. That's wonderful, short term. And some people would argue profitability or not. I'm going to argue it's not profitable at all. So as a result of this bad experience, I actually had a broom physically thrown at me. It was just this horrific experience. Yeah, it was just like, yeah, don't worry, Susan. I rode out of there with the broom between my legs like the Wicked Witch of the West. It was great. Okay. But when I look at these experiences, and that was me having to give feedback to this client that their restaurant wasn't making any money, that not only do their financials suck, but so did their food. It just was, it's just the way it was. And sometimes you have to give bad news, and you can't make it good news. So obviously he was quite upset about that. But when I look at that experience, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, that's so horrendous. Like, and yes, it was until you're sitting out on the sidewalk with the broom still in your hand and you're realizing, what was my part in this situation? Because I'm a firm believer that it always takes two. It always takes two individuals to have a bad outcome. So what was my outcome? Of course, my pride is saying, hi, it was perfect. I did everything I was supposed to. But when I really looked at this, I realized I didn't do everything. I didn't define my own value. I didn't value myself. I didn't value who I was going to be working for. Although I should have said no to this individual, I did take them into the fold of our bookkeeping environment. And I should really start thinking about who I'm going to be doing bookkeeping for. At that point, we were mainly a bookkeeping firm. So that's really how the dragon came about. Is probably more because I felt like a dragon, like a fire-breathing dragon at that instance. How dare you throw a broom at me? But dragon means a D is delightful. I only want to work with delightful people. R is respectful. Obviously, no more broom throwers. Respectful individuals is who I want to work with. And that's twofold. We're respectful. We expect it in return as well. A is articulate. We want people to be very articulate about their needs. I'm a very strong personality, so I need someone who's able to communicate with me to say, no, Jennifer, this is what I want. We need constant communication. It's really, really important. G is growth-minded. I don't ever want to hear from any prospect, this is the way we've always done it. That is not an excuse. No, you are off the table. Like literally, like, no, we can't. If you are not growth-minded, I cannot help you. That's just the way it is. We want growth-minded individuals. O means online. So when I say online, that's FinTech, right? So using different types of technologies. We're not doing paperwork. We're not doing desktop. We're not exchanging files back and forth like we're exchanging babysitting services here. We're working online. And an N is in our niche, right? So, what particular industries do you want to work with? We deal with a lot of consultants, a lot of higher end consultants, a lot of real estate agents, change leadership teams. We do have certain industries as well that we cater to, but basically by having the dragon methodology, it keeps me accountable to my team about who we're bringing into the fold. Right. And who we're always looking for as well.
Nice. No more brooms.
No more brooms. No. And I wish I would have kept the broom. Wouldn't it that, like, I just left it there. I wish I would have kept the bloody broom and bronzed it. Because had I known today what my vision of an ideal client and the dragon methodology, there's so many people that relate to it. I should have had it bronzed, and it could have been like above, like
you could have a picture
could have been hanging on my wall.
Holding it.
With a dragon. Oh wow,
Jennie.
Yes.
You know what? It really is important, and it is one of the very challenging things as I talk to coaches and entrepreneurs, that defining your niche and defining your ideal client within that niche is very challenging. And so I love the fact that you've gone online and you've taken advantage of what I see, and maybe I'm wrong, but what I see is a very growing trend towards online remote work, consultants, coaches, not necessarily employees in bricks and mortar businesses.
Exactly. And that's really how we service, right? Is we are online, we are remote, we are an outsourced accounting department, if you will, to our clients. Our team is throughout Canada, and we all work collaboratively on the client's files. And I would argue that we have greater communication working remotely and in our own structure than we do sitting beside each other. Like, we're not listening to somebody chew their gum, if you will, but we're very productive. And we're using other FinTech applications to communicate. Like this morning, we have every Monday morning for half an hour, we have a risk management meeting with our entire team. And in 30 minutes, we use Slack. Slack is a great communication tool that we communicate throughout the day for our clients, and we have separate channels set up for each client. Some of our clients are involved in those channels as well. But we're identifying risks right off the bat. And I'm not one for meetings. I know you and I came from the same background too with meetings too. And it's like, I can't stand meetings. They're not productive. Like people don't talk as fast as I do. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like just get your words out, And so what I like about Slack is we're very time management. We conscious about that. We're conscious about each other's productivity. We know more about each other. We're not obviously exchanging donuts because we're virtual, but what it serves as is if one team member is maybe vacationing in Croatia, which we had, she's able to dial in when the time zone is reflective of her time being awake and look at the entire meeting and see what happened. We have everything written down. So FinTech not only has helped our clients, but it also has helped our firm in growing and being virtual, truly virtual from the ground up.
And you said it earlier, the apps to fill the gaps. And that is something that certainly over the last year I've learned an awful lot more about is how many different apps are out there.
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
Yes. You don't even think about it. I have people that I'm trying to organize a meeting with, and I don't know what date's going to be best. I don't want to be going back and forth on email or picking up the phone 3,000 times a day. Look, let's just create a doodle. What's a doodle?
Yeah.
Right?
Let's doodle.
That's right. Or Slack or Telegram's one I've started to become more familiar with. Zoom that we're using right now. On all of the things to be able to do the recording so that people who miss out on the meeting are still able to later on go, oh yeah, let me take a look at that and see what goes on. And be respectful of listen, we've got a half an hour window. We're going to do this and we're done.
Exactly, right? And that's really what it is. And, and for advice for individuals that do feel overwhelmed with apps, because there are so many, because we also review apps for the FinTech industry, I get calls from developers before it's even hit market, right? Like, can you review my app? And it's like, it hasn't even gone to market yet. And I get this regularly. So that's just in FinTech of how much change there is. From an individual forward-facing into this environment, like I'm a small business user or a small business owner, if you will, of these apps, and I'm feeling overwhelmed, my suggestion would always be find your pain point first. Don't find an app and then find the pain point. That's what I find a lot of people do. They'll go start looking at Typeform, which is a great way to do surveys. And then they'll try and identify a pain point they have with it. That's horse pucky. Don't do that. Look at your pain first. Like, gosh, I find it so bloody painful to keep track of time. Like my time. Then go look for apps that do that. Don't get overwhelmed with the app space because it's continuously moving. It's like the sky, right? Look at your own situation first, then go and research those apps and then move back. The other thing I find really helpful is collaborating like you and I do, Susan, right? Information back and forth. I wasn't a strong Doodle user before you. I wasn't. And so just by collaborating with people and working with people, you can share feedback to go, okay, yeah, you know what? We have the same pain point. How did you solve it? I solved it using this. Well, maybe that will work for you. But don't try and be a master of everything because I'm not quite sure you get anything done.
Exactly. And that's the nice part about the remote is you're able to keep your work-life balance, have the passion, have the joy, but still feel like you're adding value to the world and to all of your clients, but don't get overwhelmed with it.
Exactly, right? You really do need the hyper-focus. You do. And especially if you're a work from home individual or a remote worker, you really need that strong sense of hyper-focus. And that is something that you have to create on your own. For sure.
Very much. As always, it has been a real pleasure talking to you today. I look forward to talking again.
Yeah, well, hey, anytime you got another spot, invite me on. I love talking about this kind of stuff. So thank you very much.
Thank you.